Hey guys, I'm super excited about today because this video is something I've probably wanted to do since the start of the channel. So over a year ago, before I even started this, there was a concept of this video and I finally got it written out. So I'm super pumped to talk to you guys about it. You know, I grew up in the late 90s and 2000s watching anime shows like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Gundam Wing, Tenchi Muyo, even stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon and Digimon, all that different stuff. The thing about earlier anime is that, you know, they made a lot of changes in the American dubs. Changes that they typically don't do anymore. When they did these American dubs, they made all kinds of changes. You know, things like different theme songs, they get rid of Japanese references, they might censor random things. And today I want to talk about what I think My Hero Academia's dub would have looked like if it would have come out in the late 90s / early 2000s. So with that being said, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up, make sure that you subscribe, make sure that you check us out on Twitter, and hey, join the discussion over on our Discord. There are links for those down in the description. With that being said, let's do this. So the first thing I want to say is one of the more obvious ones. The color palettes probably would be slightly different, and the show would have been set at a standard of 4:3, you know, that square frame, and not the now widely expected wide frame of 16:9. I imagine a scene that looks like this would actually look a lot more like this. Yeah, a little different, huh? Another thing that I see that would change is censorship. The one thing that stands out to me would be any type of cuss word. You know, they would just get rid of it because this would probably be shown on a typical Saturday morning cartoon block or Toonami that was going on the weekdays right after school. So I may have gone on there, and so that obviously would have gotten taken out. But there may have been more subtle things that I can't really pinpoint. But one thing that I am thinking about is the Dragon Ball Z dub. I think it was the Ocean dub, I'm not sure, but one of those original dubs, and they would make sure they never said words like kill, and they would change it to something like, I'm going to destroy you, not I'm going to kill you. And when there was a reference to the afterlife of this world where people go when they die, they would change it to the next dimension. I'm going to send you to the next dimension. Things like that. Again, instead of saying, I'm going to kill you. So there might be weird censorship like that. It wouldn't surprise me if they found a way to censor some of Mineta's jokes around his female classmates, just because some of those things can get a little racy, especially when you're thinking about the late 90s and the early 2000s for American audiences. I imagine that if this show had come out back then, that it would have its own original English theme song. Maybe they would sing about Deku and him trying to be like All Might. Or maybe about, you know, teenage dreams of being a pro hero. I really don't know, but it would be unique nonetheless. A good example is DBZ and Rock the Dragon. It was different from the Japanese song, but there was nothing more empowering as a kid than hearing that song blast through your television. It was awesome. Honestly, one of my favorite theme songs from back in the day. They may have even changed the opening's visuals. We saw this happen with several different shows during that time frame. A possible change, one that certainly is typical for the time, would be releasing episodes every week. Studio Bones releases My Hero Academia in a seasonal format, but earlier shonen anime often had filler. The reason why this is important to mention is that the series would have a lot more episodes. Fights usually get extended. Entire arcs could have been added. This may be less common now, but it was just what you would have expected back then, and certainly we would have gotten that if it would have come over here in the late 90s or early 2000s. Now, the biggest change that I think would happen is probably the thing that most of you would hate and despise, and that is simply the removal and changes of many of the Japanese references that is in the show. In the Pokemon anime, there was rice balls, And instead of calling them rice balls, they would just call them donuts, trying to make it, more Americanizing Japanese things. I see small basic changes like that in this show, but the scale would have to be on a much larger level. Most of the names would be changed to English for English-speaking audiences. The thought being that it would be easier for them not only to say, but to also remember. Probably my favorite example of this would be the Digidestin from Digimon's anime. The main character, Tai, his name was Tai Chi in Japan. Matt, the kind of rival character, his name was Yamoto in Japan. And there were several other instances just like this. And so I imagine this would happen to the majority of all characters in My Hero Academia. Izuku Midoriya might have had a weird name like Ian Middleton, or maybe Katsuki Bakugo may have been Caleb Baxter. Really weird, right? Or Mr. Aizawa will be Mr. Atlas. Just weird names that kind of fit more to the traditional English names. I'm not saying that any of those names are good, and you could probably come up with an even better American names than me, but the point is, they would probably be different. They'd be changed, and looking at it, we'd be like, wow, that is weird. Now, all of these seem like big changes, but something we have to realize is that if the show would have come out back then, all these changes would have been normal to us. It's different than what we have now, but we just would have expected that this is just how it is. We wouldn't think that was weird. And actually, if we were watching the Japanese show from that kind of mindset, we would think that the Japanese show is kind of weird. But My Hero would still likely be a successful show, catching the interest of Western viewers, who were used to superhero shows like, the animated Batman series, Spider-Man, and even X-Men. All of those series were hits just a few years prior to this. So it would definitely set up for a perfect world for My Hero Academia to come to the West for Americans' kids' TV. Now, I'm not saying that this would have been the best time for it to come out, or even that I wish that it would have happened. It's just interesting to think about. The reality is that the manga didn't even first get published until 2014, and that in itself makes this concept a complete impossibility. The anime first came out in 2016, so again, this whole concept is completely unrealistic. Now, whether you hate this idea or you love it, it is what it is. I know as a kid or a young teenager growing up in America during this time period that we've been talking about, I would have loved My Hero Academia. It would have been one of the coolest shows ever. It already is one of the coolest shows ever, but how much more would I have enjoyed it, because I'm loving it. I made a YouTube channel about it. How much more would I have loved it as a child? Man, I would be a diehard for life. I already am a diehard for the rest of my life, but what if that diehardness started when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever it was, It would have been awesome. And I know that many of you that are listening to this, you're probably a little bit younger than me, so you can't even relate with this, but I'm just thinking about this from my perspective and where I came from, and the anime that inspired my life, that changed my life, to be able to sit here and talk to you about My Hero Academia. But what do you guys think? Did I miss anything that might have been changed? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. Make sure that you subscribe, check me out on Twitter, join the discussion on Discord, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. And guys, we'll see you next time.